So the revolutionaries. So here with this particular part starts with the revolutionaries. Revolutionaries are the one who started revolution. During the years following 1915, the fear of repression done by liberal nationalism underground. It means that when it was, we can say in part 2 we have understood that how the Napoleon Bonaparte came into power and then he got defeated by the conservative regime, and after that in the year 1915 the Congress of Vienna was being signed by the European states, and they tried to undo the changes that has been made by the Napoleon. In the revolutionary side, we can say, as the liberals, they got defeated by the conservatism. So after conservatism, they became underground and they formed secret societies. Here the secret societies is spreading up in many European states to train revolutionaries and spread their ideas. So now the liberal nationalism, so the liberal nationalists, they became underground because the conservatives, they came into power and they started we can say curbing all the people, those who talked about, those who discuss about the liberal nationalism. So they're not going to favor the liberals, so they went underground and tried to form different societies and trained revolutionaries, and they started giving training to the revolutionaries. To be revolutionaries at this time meant a commitment to oppose monarchical form that had been established after the Vienna Congress. That has been mentioned. After the Vienna Congress means it is the conservatism, it is the conservative attitudes that has it is the people who belong to conservative, they established a monarchical form of government. So for liberal nationalism, we can say, for the liberals, to overthrow monarchy was a new meaning of nationalism. And the fight for the liberty and freedom. Most of these revolutionaries who saw a creation of nation states as a necessary part of this struggle for freedom, right? One such individual was Italian revolutionary Mazzini, Giuseppe Mazzini. Born in Genoa in 1807, he became a member of the secret society of the Carbonari. As a young man of 24, he was sent into exile in 1831 for attempting a revolutionary in Liguria. So this shows that the conservative government, they were not ready to accept any kind of criticism to the people. He subsequently founded two more underground societies, first Young Italy in Marseilles and then Young Europe in Bern, whose members were like-minded young men from Poland, France, Italy and Germany. Mazzini believed that God had intended nations to be the natural units of mankind. So Italy could not continue to be a patchwork of small states and kingdoms. It had to be forged into a single unified republic within the wider alliance of nations. So somewhere they try to promote the idea of nation states through their actions. The age of revolutionaries. Now here what happened, the whole system, the whole people, the whole time was regarded as the age of revolution, where many revolutionaries came into being and they started protesting against the conservative regime. As conservative regime tried to consolidate their power, liberalism and nationalism came to be increasingly associated with the revolution in many regions of Europe, such as the Italian and German states, the provinces of the Ottoman Empire, Ireland and Poland. These revolutionaries were led by the liberal nationalists belonging to the educated middle class elite, among whom were professors, school teachers, clerks and the members of the commercial middle classes. So each and everywhere we saw each and every social groups participated in the movement. They wanted to end the conservative regimes and they wanted to establish their own way of society. The first upheaval took place in France in July 1830. The Bourbon king, who had been restored to power during the conservative reaction, we can say, after 1815 were now overthrown by liberal revolutionaries who installed a constitutional monarchy with Louis Philippe as its head. When France sneezes, here this statement is very important. When France sneezes, Metternich once remarked, the rest of Europe catches cold. That means France became an epicenter of all the revolution that has been started in Europe and America. The July Revolution sparked an uprising in Brussels, which led to a Belgium breaking away from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. So this is about France, that how it becomes so important, and about revolutionaries also. They took up steps against the conservative regime to end up the monarchical rule from their territory. An event that mobilized nationalist feelings among the educated elite across Europe was a Greek War of Independence. Greece had been a part of the Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. The growth of revolutionary nationalism in Europe sparked off a struggle for independence amongst the Greek, which began in 1821. Nationalists in Greece got supported from other Greeks living in exile and also from many West European who had sympathizes for ancient Greek culture. Right, so from these areas, the people, they got the support. The Greece people, they got the support. Poets and artists lauded Greece as the cradle of European civilization and mobilized public opinion to support its struggle against the Muslim empire. The English poet Lord Byron organized funds and later went to fight in the war, where he died of fever 1824. Finally, the Treaty of Constantinople of 1832 recognized Greece as an independent nation. So this was the event that was very important, right? This was the first time that the Greece got the status of a country, we can say, of an independent nation. And the treaty which was responsible for this was the Treaty of Constantinople of 1832. Now the new era, the new phase of romantic imagination and national feeling. So the romantic nationalism was against, we can say, a new kind of feeling that was against the rational, that was against the science and philosophy, that was against the science and reason, right? So the romantic imagination and the feeling and the national feeling going side by side, and because of that, what happened? The development of nationalism did not come about only through wars and territorial expansion. Culture played an important role in creating the idea of nation. Art and poetry, stories and music helped express the shape nationalist feeling. So in this way, a new idea, the new kind of we can say a new kind of tools that has been devised to popularize the feeling of, to popularize the idea of a nation. It was stories, it was music, it was poetry, art, right? This kind of feeling started emerging, and this kind of feeling is coming under romantic feeling. Let us look at romanticism, a cultural movement. We are saying romanticism, a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiments. Romantic artists and poets generally criticized the glorification of reason and science. So they were against reasons and science and focused instead of emotion. So they focused, the romantic artists, they artisans, the artists, they focused on emotion rather than science and reason. Intuitions and mystical feelings. Their effort was to create a sense of shared collective heritage, a common cultural past as the basis of a nation. Over romantics such as German philosopher John Gottfried Herder claimed that true German culture was discovered among the common people, that is Das Volk. So the Das Volk, what's the meaning of Das Volk? Is the common people. It was through a folk song, folk poetry and folk dances that the true spirit of nation, Volksgeist, we can say, it was popularized. So collecting and recording these forms of folk culture was essential to the project of nation building. Now, here it emphasizes on vernacular. This we have understood before. The emphasizes on vernacular language and the collection of local folklore, and not just recover an ancient national spirit, but also to carry the modern nationalist message. A large audience who were mostly illiterate, right? Mostly peoples were illiterate and they cannot understand the word which was been written. Like many philosophers, they wrote many books we have read in the French Revolution, intellectual causes, right? So it was not only the words that can help, because the people, they were illiterate, they cannot understand the word, but they can understand the picture. So the new kinds of expression, the new kinds of message was started coming into, flooding into market. It was the caricatures, it was paintings, it was other kinds of things like stories, right? This kind of thing started coming for the growth of nationalism. Even though Poland no longer existed as an independent territory, national feelings were kept alive through musics and languages. So it was so important. Music, language and paintings become so important in romanticism, in romantics, we can say culture. So new kinds of nationalism that emerged during that time, it was all based on folklore, it was all based on local customs and traditions, it was based on emotions, but it was, we can say, based on reasons and science. So it criticized reasons and science, right? And this is all about the third thing. The third part is over now. We'll see in the fourth part what will be there. Till then, thank you.